Hi, I'm Luce. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming my April and my May wrap up. Now, if I'm being honest, I completely forgot to film an April wrap up. So I thought I'd just do like a 2-in-1 and do my April and my May wrap up. I am filming this like a little bit into June, but like not too far into June. I actually haven't counted how many books that I have read over April and May. I will say it has been a bit of a, not a bad reading couple months, but like a little bit slower than normal. I haven't been reading quite as much as I normally do, which is normal. I spoke about this in the vlog that I just posted. Like when it gets to this time of the year, I have like all my reading motivation is right at the beginning of the year and right at the end of the year. So the middle I tend to be a little bit slower. I'm not reading quite as much. I've also been kind of busier than normal over the last 2 months, so like it's fine. I still read a lot of books. I still read quite a lot even when I'm in a bit of a slower pace. But over the past 2 months I have read, let me just count, 19 books over the last 2 months. So like I said, I've still read a lot. It just doesn't feel like a lot for me personally. But anyway, I don't want this video to be like super long because I feel like it could end up being when I'm talking about 19 books. Yeah, I am just gonna kind of get into the books. I also have a snack for this particular reading wrap up. I have some pandan cake here, so I'm going to be snacking on this in between talking about books. If you've never had pandan cake, I would definitely recommend it. Right, so obviously starting off with my April reads. So the first book that I read in April was Broken by Daylight by Elizabeth Helen. I gave this 5 stars. This is the 4th book in the Beast of the Briar series. I know that there is a release date now for book 5, but it's not until next year. And I'm really not okay with it. This book was so good. This is one of my favorite series of all time. So I fully expected this book to be a 5-star, for this to hit really hard. It did, but I'm also really upset that I have to wait like a year for book 5. I genuinely don't know how I'm gonna cope. But I've spoken about the series a lot on my channel. This is a polyamorous Beauty and the Beast retelling with Fae. We have our main girlie Rosie, and she ends up in the world of the Fae with these 4 Fae princes. There's a lot of spice, there's a lot of romance, there's a lot of really interesting plot as well, like especially as you get further into the series. So I cannot recommend this series enough. Like I need everyone to read this series. Okay, and then the next book I read was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This has been such a hyped romantasy book that I've seen a lot on like Book Talk and Bookstagram and stuff, and I was really keen to see what I thought about this series. And I really liked it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I think this was such a solid start to the series. This is one of those series as well that a lot of people compare to Throne of Glass. And if I'm being honest, I don't see it in this series. There's another series I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, which also gets compared to Throne of Glass, and I do see the comparisons for that one. This one, I really don't get. This does not give me Throne of Glass. As well as our main character DM, who is a healer in the human area of the city. The city in this world is split into like the humans and the descended, which are, do I even know what they are? I don't know, they're like magical beings. At the start of the book, her mother goes missing, and she is kind of trying to figure out why she went missing, where she's gone, and also what the descended might have to do with it. And like I said, I loved this book. I am so keen to carry on with the rest of the series. I know that there's 3 books out now. I have no idea when the 4th book is coming out. I know a lot of people are really eagerly anticipating it, but yeah, this was so much fun, such a good start to the series, and I think I would definitely be picking up book 2 in July. Okay, then I have a reread, which is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I'm pretty sure I've spoken about my feelings on this book before, but Cassandra Clare, if you don't know, is one of my favorite authors. I am such a stan of the Shadowhunter books, and so when she announced that she was coming out with her adult debut, I was so excited. And when I read this originally, I think it was last year, maybe? I was kind of disappointed with it, but I think I went in with the wrong expectations of it. So when I reread it this time, I went in kind of knowing what it was going to be like, and I did enjoy it more. I gave this one 4 stars. I think my main issue with this when I read it the first time is it is very slow. It is a lot of world building, character building, building up the magic system, the character relationships, all of that stuff. And while I did find that interesting, I think based on what I've read from Cassandra Clare with the Shadowhunter books, I don't know, they just feel a bit more fast-paced. Maybe it's because they're YA, maybe it's because they're urban fantasy and this is like completely new fantasy world, I don't know. But I definitely did enjoy this more the second time, and I am really keen to read the sequel. I think the way that this book has set up the plot means that in theory the second book should be really, really good. So I am going to be reading that one hopefully soon. So this is following our main characters, one of which is the sword catcher for the prince of this kingdom, who is essentially the kind of body double, the guy that they send out if they think the prince is going to be in trouble, and he looks very much like him, obviously, which is why he can convince everyone that he is actually the prince. And then we have our other main character, who is a healer as well, actually, and she is part of the magical people in this world who, as is the case in most fantasy worlds, are discriminated against. Yeah, it's kind of about how these characters end up coming together. 4 stars on reread for this one, definitely enjoyed it more. Then the next book I don't have a physical copy of because I read an ARC copy of it, and it is Morningstar by J.R. Rowden. I was very kindly sent a copy of this by Jazz, the author. I gave this 4.5 stars. I really didn't know how I was going to feel going into it. I didn't know what to expect from this book at all, and I really, really liked it. This is a fantasy romance, and it is, at this point at least in the series, loosely based on the fall of Lucifer. You know, we have like gods and angels and stuff in this series, and our main girlie is the son of essentially God in this series, and she is set to inherit her father's kind of like abilities and his power, but she is struggling with accessing it. And so she ends up recruiting the head of the guard, and they end up working together. It's quite a kind of typical fantasy romance setup, but I just really love the way it was done in this book. I was so engaged. I was so into it. I am definitely going to be rereading this once it's actually out, and I am dying for the sequel. Like, as soon as Jazz has finished writing it, I am going to be begging her to send me a copy because it was so good. So I know that this book was originally supposed to come out, I think, in July. I'm pretty sure it's been pushed back to November, so there is a little bit of a wait for it, but if anything about it sounds interesting, please go pick it up when it is out. These next 2 books I'm just going to talk about together because they are 2 books in the same series, but I read volumes 5 and 6 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Another series I've spoken about a lot. I love this series. It's a Chinese danmei, a Chinese boys love series following a god and a ghost king. It is so good. I gave them both 5 stars, which seems correct. I really like the start of the series, don't get me wrong, it's very good, but the kind of second half of the series is so good. There is so much kind of plot stuff that has culminated from the first 4 volumes. This is an 8-volume series. I am planning on reading volumes 7 and 8 in the month of June. I cannot wait to be done with this series, but I'm also going to be really sad when it's done because like I love it so much. So yeah, I read both of these volumes in April. Then we have the book with, I think, a more valid Throne of Glass comparison, which is Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roerick. This one I gave 3 stars, I think feels right. I was floating between a 3 and a 3.5, but I think a 3 is where I've settled on. This follows our main character Scarlet, who used to work for the Assassin Lord in the city, and then because of the death of one of her friends, she ends up kind of distancing herself from him and trying to lead her own life. But he comes to her and says that if she does this one final job for him, he will give her information on the Fae Prince who killed her mother. Now, I did enjoy aspects of this book, but it just felt quite, I guess slow is the right word. Like, I was interested in what was going on, but I just kind of felt like we weren't getting anywhere very quickly. I felt like we were almost going in circles a lot of the time. So I do know that this is book 1 out of 5, so anticipating that, you know, this book's going to be set up, that all the rest of the books in the series are going to be better. So I'm definitely still intrigued to carry on with this series, but I was just a tiny bit let down by this one. Yeah, like I said, I do see the Throne of Glass comparisons with this particular series. Okay, then I read Dark Fae by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. I have been craving, like absolutely fiending to be back in this world. I, if you don't know, absolutely love the Zodiac Academy series by these authors. One of my god tier series, love it so much. And this is set, I believe, 5 years before Zodiac Academy at a different school. And I really liked this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I just find the way that these authors write really, really fun. I find it so engaging. It is so quick. It's just fun. I love it so much. This one follows our main character Elise. At the start of this book, her brother has died. It has been ruled as kind of like an accidental overdose suicide, but Elise doesn't believe that. She knows her brother, she knows that that's not the kind of thing that would end up happening to him, so she believes he has been murdered. So she is on a quest to figure out who murdered him, which ends up taking her to the school that her brother attended. And she is very suspicious of the kings of the school. There's these 4 super popular, super quote-unquote badass guys and she's obviously suspicious of the murder, but of course she ends up falling in love with them. This is a reverse harem series, and I will say the end of this book was crazy. So another one that I am really dying to get into the sequel for very soon. We have Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan. This one was the most pleasant surprise, I think, of all the books that I read this month. I gave this 5 stars. I didn't buddy read this with Caitlin, but we kind of read it around the same time. And we both loved this book. I think this book is really underhyped. I do not see enough people talking about this. I thought this book was, again, so fun. This follows our main girl, Ray, who at the start of the book is in hospital after she has been diagnosed with cancer. And she and her sister have this book series that they absolutely love, that is their favorite. And it's kind of like her comfort right now while she is sick and while she's in pain. And one night when she's in the hospital, this mysterious woman comes up to her and is like, hey, I can give you the ability to transport into the world of your favorite book series to find this flower that can cure you of your illness. And Ray says, hell fucking yeah. And she ends up going into this world, but she is the villain of the story. And I just really loved it. This definitely had some kind of like more hard-hitting topics in, like for example, like the cancer diagnosis, and the characters I thought were really complex and really interesting. I thought the world was really cool, but it was also really funny. Like, this book does not take itself seriously in any way, shape or form, and I loved that about it. So yeah, loved this book. Will be absolutely sprinting to pick up the sequel as soon as it is out. And then the last book for April was Ruthless Empire by Rena Kent. This was a buddy read with Caitlin, and this has finished our buddy read for the Royal Elite series. This is the last book. This one 4 stars. This was a really good ending to the Royal Elite series. While I'm sad that this series is done, because I did really enjoy it, I am so excited to move on to more of the Renaverse. This one follows Colin Silver, and I have been kind of the most excited, I think, for this one, because we get Silver as she's almost kind of like a villain character in the first 3 books. Not a villain. She's basically just like the bitchy mean girl of the school, but obviously there is more to her character and we learn all about it in this book. I absolutely loved her as a main character. Cole was fine. He wasn't my favorite. He wasn't my least favorite. He was there. I really enjoyed the way that their relationship went, and I also really liked the kind of mystery element in this. Like, I did not see it coming. I was shook by it. So yeah, this one was a really solid 4 star. So those are all the books that I read in April. So moving on to May, the first book that I finished in May was my reread of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I haven't reread this book, I think, in like 4 years. And considering this is one of my favorite books of all time, I thought that was a crime. So I thought it was time to rectify it. I obviously gave it 5 stars. This is my super tabbed edition of it. I just love this book. It's like a comfort book to me. I would basically describe this book as if Harry Potter was not written by a raging transphobe, just all around terrible person, and if Draco and Harry were in love. Basically what this book is, it follows our main character Simon, who is the chosen one. He is the one that is supposed to end the evil that is currently plaguing the magical world. So we have that subplot going on, but we also have his romance with his roommate Baz. And I love this book. I read this book, I think, when I was 17. So I read this book like 9 years ago, and it has just stuck with me. It is such a comfort read for me. It is just, I just love it. I can't recommend this highly enough, and I am going to be continuing on with my reread of the series very soon. Okay, and then this next chunk of books are the books that I read for my vlog, where my bestie Caitlin chooses my TBR. So if you haven't watched that very long vlog, then feel free to go watch it. It's the video I posted before this one, but the first one that I read for that was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a really fun, kind of silly, goofy fantasy romance about a girl who ends up being the assistant to the villain. But the villain is, in my opinion, not really villainous. He's like a soft cinnamon roll boy. Like I said with Long Live Evil, I really like books that don't take themselves seriously, and that's exactly what this was as well. And I know that book 2 for this is out now, and I think book 3 is coming out very soon. So I do want to kind of binge the 2nd and 3rd books over the summer, because I feel like that's going to be the perfect time for it. Then I read Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Belfleur, and I gave this one 5 stars. I'm truly shocked that I gave this one 5 stars, because I mentioned this, I think, in my May TBR video, but the first book in this kind of companion romance series, Written in the Stars, I adored. I gave 5 stars. And then I despised the second one. I gave it a 2 stars, and I feel like that feels kind of generous for me now. So I really wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this one, but I gave it 5 stars. I think that Alexandria Belflour's sapphic romances are just the way to go for me, and I avoid her MF ones, but this one is following our 2 main characters who used to be best friends when they were younger and had this kind of romantic fling for like a week when they were like 18. And because of a misunderstanding, they haven't spoken for I think about 11 years. They end up coming back into contact, and one of the girls, Olivia, is assigned as the wedding planner for Margot's best friend's wedding. And then also due to some other situations, they also end up becoming roommates, and it's just a story about them reconnecting, dealing with their issues, and I loved it so much. I thought it was really sweet and really heartfelt and also very spicy as well. Like the spice in this one was really spicing. So yeah, 5 stars, absolutely love this series, and I'm definitely going to be looking at Alexandria Belflour's other sapphic books. Next I read Best Hex Ever by Nadia El-Farsi, which I gave a 3 star. I did like this book, but my main issue, I talked about this I think a little bit more in detail in my vlog, but the main issue I had with this one was it was just too insta-love and insta-lust. Like, this follows our 2 main characters, one who is a witch who owns a bakery, and the other one is a museum curator, I think is the right word. And they end up meeting when he comes into her bakery, and basically it's love at first sight from there. Both of them end up attending this wedding because it's their respective best friends that are getting married, so they're kind of stuck together for a weekend, and they literally are just constantly thinking about how much they want to bang each other, and also picturing a life together, like you've known each other for a week. So I did enjoy this. I thought that the writing was like nice, I thought the setting was cool, I really liked the witchy elements in it, so I am interested in reading more from Nadia El-Farsi, but this one I just wish was a little bit less horny and a little bit more slow burn. I read what I think is my favourite book of the entire month, which is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This one was again a surprise on how much I loved it. This is a historical YA fantasy, kind of like I would describe Bridgerton meets The Cruel Prince, because the Fae in this series are more Cruel Prince. They're not big buff, you know, 6 feet winged fae like Sarah J Maas that are going to growl at you. They are devious and trickstery, and I loved it. And yeah, it's Bridgerton. It's set in like the 1800s, I think it is, in England, and our main character is the second daughter of a family that's kind of had a little bit of a scandal, so her marriage prospects are not looking great. But the queen of this world, who is also fae, has announced that her son is looking to marry. And so our main girlie enters into the kind of competition to win his hand, and it goes from there. I adored this book. I thought it was so fantastic. I am again going to be sprinting when the sequel comes out, and I think that this is another underrated one. Like, I think not enough people have read this, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. Okay, we are approaching the end, but next up I have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I gave this 4.25 stars. This was my first Grady Hendrix, and it will definitely not be my last. I thought this book was so fucking good. This is set in, I think like it's the 90s or something like that, in the South in America, and it follows these housewives who have started up this book club, and a vampire moves in the neighborhood. And a lot of chaos goes from there. I don't really want to say anything about what this is about because I went into this pretty blind, and it was such a wild ride. Like, the first kind of half is not slow, but like there's not loads of action. It's just a lot of kind of like mystery of what's going on and like building character dynamics and stuff. The second half of this book was so crazy. Like, I listened to the audiobook of this, which I would also highly recommend because the narrator has like a beautiful southern accent, which really adds to the atmosphere. But I was like gasping, I was like pacing around. The ending of this book was so crazy, and it was so good. I am for sure going to be reading more Grady Hendrix after this. And then another horror book that I ended up reading is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, aka Shauna Maguire. This is one that's been on my TBR for quite a long time, and I'm very happy that Caitlin picked it for me so that it gave me the push to finally pick it up. In this book, a production company sent this massive ship off into the Mariana Trench to film a mockumentary about monsters of like the deep sea. But it turns out there actually was monsters in the deep sea, and that entire voyage, everyone got murdered basically by these killer mermaids, and the footage has been released to the public. And so 7 years later, the production company is trying to kind of fix their image, and so they send another crew, another vessel out to investigate what happened basically. And we follow a group of characters who all in some way have a connection to the original voyage that got sent out. And again, that's all I really want to say about it. I gave this 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I think that the mix of the horror and all the sciencey stuff was so interesting. It kept me really, really engaged. I know that Shauna Maguire has other horror books out as Mira Grant, so I'm definitely going to be really interested to pick those up and see if I love those as much as I love this one. Okay, penultimate book. I have Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields. This one I picked up basically because Fairyloot announced that they're doing the sequel, and I wanted to know if I liked this book enough to purchase the sequel in the matching edition, because I think that this copy is so beautiful. And I did like this one. I gave this a 3.75. This follows our main character who is a changeling. She's a fae that got switched for a human child, and so she ends up getting raised in the human world with a woman who basically despises her because she views her as the reason that her daughter's gone. She turns 18. This guardian tries to make a deal with the Wild Hunt to exchange our main character for her daughter. I would say it does not work out very well for either of them. And then a little bit later on, our main character ends up meeting who turns out to be one of the kings of the Fae, and they enter a bargain and she ends up going to the Fae world. I did enjoy this book. There was definitely things that I didn't love about it, but overall I thought it was very fun, and it was also darker than I thought it was going to be, which I personally enjoyed. I like a dark romance, dark romantasy. So yeah, 3.75, and I am really, really intrigued to read the sequel because of the way that this one ended. Okay, and then the final book that I have, the last book that I read in May, is one I actually don't have a physical copy of, but it is Captivating by Onley James. This is the second book in the Elite Protection Services series. So I have read the first book in this series, and I've also read 4 other books by Onley James. And I will say, unfortunately, this was definitely my least favorite. This is following one of our main characters who is a really well-known actor. He was a child actor, but he has some kind of dark stuff, some trauma in his past, and that's kind of coming back to bite him in the ass a little bit now that he's an adult. And he's also just been outed as being queer, so his management ends up hiring a bodyguard to come and hire him, which is our other main character. It is like an actor bodyguard romance, and I will say this started off strong for me, but unfortunately just kind of tapered off towards the end. If you haven't ever read an Onley James book before, they do all have, I would say, quite dark themes in them. The romances themselves aren't dark. The romances themselves I think are actually normally very sweet and kind of quite fluffy, but the situations surrounding them are normally darker. Like there's normally a lot of trauma and a lot of just kind of gross, dark things that happen to the characters, so beware of that if you want to pick up any of her books. Still give this 3 stars. It was very, very quick. Like I flew through this book, and I'm still gonna be reading more Onley James. Like I like the Elite Protection series, and I really like her Necessary Evils series, which is her like psychopath romance series. I think that one's really fun. Yeah, unfortunately this one it wasn't my favorite. So those are all the books that I read in April and May. I will say June right now, we're not off to the best start. I'm reading good things, but I have actually been very busy so far in June, so I'm hoping I can kind of really get back into reading and have a really good June reading month. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you feel like it, and hopefully I will see you in a new video again soon. Bye!